I already know that if you've clicked on this video, you're already going to be full of anger and hate because of what the title said. Oh, the Switch 2 isn't cheaper. No, it's so expensive. Listen, you talk too much. Listen, I'm going to prove to you now that because of inflation, that the Switch 2 isn't as expensive as you think it is because of the way games have changed over the last 30 years and the prices that they were way back when in the 1940s then. What a fucking idiot. Way back when in the 1980s. So I'm going to do a little bit of a PowerPoint, go a bit retro with it and show you exactly why games aren't as expensive as you think they are because of the inflation and the increase in the minimum wage. So what I'm going to have to do, this using pounds because obviously I'm in England and I think the minimum wage in America is a lot lower than what it is in the UK. I think it's $7.50 federally, if I'm right. I could be wrong, let me know in the comments. In America, so technically in America, yeah, it probably is a lot more expensive than what it is in the UK for once. That is, usually we get shafted over here because of the dollars and the pound. We usually pay a bit more for consoles and hardware than they do in America, historically anyway. So sit back, try not to comment before you've seen the whole video and see if I have a point. If I do have a point and you agree with me, like the video and share it with people. If you disagree, please disagree in the comments, let me know, because obviously I might be wrong, but I think I'm bringing a pretty good case. So I'm going to start off with the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System. So in 1990, I've got this picture from a catalogue, and it was from 1990. So in 1990, it was $159.99 to own a NES console. So if you do the inflation and adjustable inflation on it, nowadays that console would have cost you £388.45. So that's a massive increase. And the way I'm working this all out is I'm using obviously a inflation adapter on Google, but the way I'm using the base amount is how much you earn on a minimum wage. So the minimum wage back in 1990 didn't exist. So you could be paid £2.50 an hour because there was no laws in place. The minimum wage in the UK didn't come in until 1999. So if you're being paid £2.50 an hour to pay off a £159.99 console, you would work a lot more hours than you would nowadays to pay off a Switch 2. And I'm going to show you some examples in a minute. So yeah, the Nintendo Entertainment System was £159.99 back in 1990. In today's money, it would be £388.45, which is slightly under the Switch 2's base price, if I remember correctly. Right, next one. Super Nintendo games. So this is from a magazine, I think it was Argos, 1994. Mortal Kombat 3, $59.99 in 1994. That's 31 years ago. Donkey Kong Country 2, $49.99. 31 years ago. Oh my god, 31 years ago. When I was working this all out, I was like 20 years ago. And then I realised, I was like, oh my god, 30. I'm so old. So if you adjust a NES, a Super Nintendo game for the inflation of now, that game would be £121 for a game. And the Switch games are, the Switch 2 games, are about $90. I think they're about 80 quid. So it's still under inflation because you would have paid 121 quid for Mortal Kombat 3 on the SNES 31 years ago. See what I'm getting at here? Right, next one. So the next one, the PlayStation 3 was 425 quid when it came out in 2007 in the UK. If you adjust it for inflation, that would have cost 704 quid. So that's like 2 Switch 2s in modern day money. Or it'd probably be the Switch 2 with a game and all the accessories that come in with it, which is still cheaper than the PlayStation 5 Pro, which came out. I think that just cost me 800 quid. So pick your battles. Next up, we've got the N64 in 1997. So the N64 games, I remember this. I used to go to my local video shop, and they were $69.99 to buy. In this one here, this is Argos. The cheaper in this Argos catalogue is $54.75. So they range between 55 quid, and some of them were up to 80 quid. And I read somewhere in America they were like $100. It's because of how much they cost to produce. which is fair enough. Games don't cost as much to produce physically these days because of chips and stuff. Ooh, sorry, I just tapped the mic. But games are more expensive to create, and I'm going to go into that as well in a minute. So a Nintendo 64 in 1997, the console was 148 and the games are 54. Inflation, the games would be 105 in modern day money and £286.47p. So next up, we've got, this is crazy, like the prices on this is crazy. So we've got the Mega Drive 2 or the Genesis 2. The console, if you got it with the disc drive, because it was two separate consoles, remember, was 414 quid. That was in 1994. So adjust that for inflation, 876 quid. Because you see what I'm getting at? If you adjust things for inflation, or even reverse engineer the Switch 2 for inflation back in this era, it's cheaper. It's not as expensive as it looks because of the way the inflation works and the amount of hours you'd work to own one in the UK anyway. Next up, this blew my mind. I found this catalogue from 1990. NES games, $54.99 in 1990. That's literally like a week's wage, more than a week's wage in 1990. Some people, because like I said, there was no minimum wage. They could pay you whatever they wanted. If you adjust that $54.99 for inflation, 133 quid and 51p in 2025 money to own one game on an NES, which is fucking insane. Can you see what I'm getting at? Are you coming to my way of thinking yet? I'm sure there'll be people who will kick off and argue back, which is fine. I want to know, because I could be wrong. You know what I mean? This is just the way I'm viewing it. I'm viewing it through the baseline that minimum wage is because most people in society are on minimum wage. The people who earn more money, who are on high wages, they don't struggle to buy this sort of stuff. They'll just buy one. But people who are on minimum wage have to count every hour, every penny that they earn. So it starts off as your base point. Okay, so this is where I'm going to try and prove my point. So the minimum wage in the UK in 1990 was £3.60 for people over 21, I think it is, because there's like 3 levels to it. But when you're an adult, basically, £3.60. So the minimum wage now in 2025 is £11.21. Okay, so remember that. You'd have to remember it because I'm going to go through it anyway with some lovely diagrams. So to buy a PlayStation 1 in 1995, it was 299 quid. Okay, so £299 divided by 3.60, which is the £3.60 an hour, would mean you would work 83 hours to pay off a PlayStation 2. Obviously, this isn't including taxes and all that kind of stuff. I'm just on about as the base amount, how much your worth is an hour for the minimum wage. So you probably work more hours than that, to be honest, because obviously of the taxation. So £299 divided by 3.60, which is £3.60 an hour, equals 83 hours. Now compare that to the Switch 2 in 2025. £395 divided by £12.21 an hour means you work 32 hours. Like I say, not including tax and everything. So you're talking 50 hours difference. You work 50 hours more in the past, in 1995, to own a PlayStation 1 than you do a Switch 2 in modern day era. Does that make sense? So technically, you're working less hours to own something, even though you're still on the minimum wage. So the console is technically cheaper because of inflation, but you can reverse the inflation too. I've done it. I've done the reversal. The Switch 2, if it came out in 1994, if you reverse the modern day money for it back to 1994 money, is £191.15. So £191.15 compared to £299 for the PlayStation 1. So the Switch 2 is cheaper than the PlayStation 1. Would you get me? But also what people aren't taking into account, years ago when they were making old games, the ones that were $59.99 on the NES, they were made by about 10 people in Japan in a room using graph paper, and they'd use the graph paper to make the pixels and everything. Obviously they'd bring one person in to do the soundtrack, so you'd have a really, really tiny team. They'd make the game probably between like 50 grand and £1 million. £1 million was like stretching it to make a game. The game would probably last a couple of hours at most because of how difficult it was, not because of all the stuff that's on it, because it was on an 8-bit cartridge. So it had more difficulty but less less things to do on it. Whereas nowadays, if you look at games, it's really hard to find this information. If you look at games now, they're between 50 grand and 500 grand to make just a mobile game. But like the AAA studios are spending like 20 million to like 200 million. I think I read somewhere The Last of Us 2 cost 200 million. Or was it 250? But you need to remember, these new game studios are thousands of people. You've got translators around the world. You need motion capture to capture the facial expressions. It's all done like that now. You need storyboard. You need a director, a proper director, producer. What else? Voice actors. And all this adds up. And I played the Mortal Kombat 1, the new one from last year. I played that game last year and I completed it. And I sat and watched the credits go up. And the credits were rolling for 20 minutes. And I was sat there thinking, fuck. I was like, how many people have worked on this game? You know, because of all the different faces and all the different voices and all the different regions and like tuning stuff and whatever. And I thought, there's no way that that game could have made a lot of money because of how many people were involved creating it. So games are more expensive to make now than they have ever been. Like I say, some of them are up to 200 million, where in the past it cost a lot less. Hardware and chips are more expensive than ever as well now. Since COVID especially. Or can I say COVID on YouTube? So my argument is, because of inflation, games are cheaper now than they ever have been, when you take into account how much goes into making a game compared to how much went into making a game in the past, and how much games were in the past compared to now. But let me know what you guys think. I'm sure you're going to disagree. I'm sure I've never had hate comments on here, and I've not had any dislikes on any of my videos yet, even though I've only had a few. And I'm sure I'm going to get absolutely fucking bombarded with hate for this. But try and look at it as a logical mind. Let me know what you think in the comments, because I will appreciate it, and I will answer back, and I will chat about it. This is just my opinion and my view. I could be wrong. Like I say, I'm not a mathematician, and I'm definitely not a economist. Economist? Is that the right word? So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, and hopefully I'm back into streaming now. I've been through fucking hell on earth for the last 6 months. I did a video about the last 3 years of being bad. It took it up another notch. I'm going to do a video on that, fill everyone in where I've been for the last 6 months. The cherry on top has been literally the last 3 weeks where I've been in hospital with a heart condition. But I'm going to do a video on that because I think my smartwatch might have actually saved my life. So yeah, keep your eye out on my profile. If you enjoy what you see, please give us a like, because I've only got 200 followers. And yeah, I want to get back into doing this because I really do enjoy it. I love talking about games. So give us a thumbs up, give us a share, even share it with people who just, you know, are going to kick off with me, because hate sells online. More people will come to the profile and have a chat. So yeah, thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.